Good morning.
Morning, Coach.
We have a great guest on today. I got to put my volume up. All right, good. We have a great guest on today, legendary coach, Coach Sadloch, Ed Sadloch. Many years as the head coach at Cedar Grove, over 200, I think 50 plus wins there, multiple state championships. Actually coached many pro football players as well.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about
a small program.
Yep, a small Group 1 program that he built into a powerhouse. Obviously, coached other places as well throughout the years. Just recently retired from coaching, I think a couple of days ago. And, he's had a long story career of over 50 years, helping leading men, changing their lives, making them into better football players, making them into better people, most importantly. And just also one of the in New Jersey, I have to bring it up, but one of the godfathers of the WingT in New Jersey, and a guru there. So I can't be remiss without having to talk that as well. Without further ado, let's bring on Coach Sadloch. Coach Sadloch, how's it going?
Coach, is very good, feeling great.
Coach, thank you, man. I really appreciate you coming on and talking some ball with us this morning.
No problem. This is great.
All the years of coaching, over 50 years. Was I correct on that? Over 50 years?
Somewhere between 50, 51. I don't know. People are telling me I can't add. I don't know.
Well, listen, we round up over here. We round up, so we'll go with
1973, 50. Somewhere around there. Around where we started.
So. Take us through your career. As best you can. But take us through your career from the time you got into football. What I think is so interesting is you've actually spanned different generations in a time that each one of these generations have been very different in the space of football, and you've coached through all of those. To take us through kind of your history of coaching.
Well, once I got out of college, I did wind up for a very brief time with Tony Karsich when he got the Bergen Catholic job. I was going to be his freshman coach, and all of a sudden a job opening in Garfield came up, and I had a coach. So I left Tony hanging probably a week into it because it was a full-time position in Garfield High School, and I was coaching football there too. We're still good friends. He busts my chops about it a little bit, but that's where we started. I started in Garfield under Tom Cangelosi, who then became later on superintendent of schools at Garfield. I was an assistant on his staff. Went through some tough times at Garfield. I think we were outmatched a lot. We were in the NNJL at the time. Clifton, they would have 98 kids. We would have 25. Yeah. So you cut your teeth back then in the early 70s, having to deal with tremendous odds and coaching kids up as best you could, even though you knew you were outnumbered. From there, after Garfield, I wound up for 1 year at Ramapo College with Frank Marino, running the WingT, and they were talking about going Division III. They were a club program at the time. I was going to be his offensive coordinator, and we wound up winning the club national championship. We beat Providence College up in Rhode Island. We were up there, and that's when I was able to get my feelers out as a head coach. I got my first job at Parsippany High School. They were the Redskins. I know they're the Red Hawks now, so everybody's politically correct in this time. I was there for 3 years. I had a 13-1 record there, I believe, and went on from there to go to Bailey Ellard. Bailey Ellard, I was a athletic director there for my tenure there. I was the head football coach. I was the dean of discipline. I think I was a janitor. I was all sorts.
You were
at Bailey Ellard. We had 9 good years at Bailey. And then George Jenkins, who was also in the Colonial Hills Conference at the time at Cedar Grove, was the athletic director there. And he asked me if I would be interested in coming to Cedar Grove. And I spent 25 years in Cedar Grove as a head football coach. And after that, after I stepped down there, I wound up coaching with a good friend, Richie Hansen, at St. Peter's as an assistant. I started off as a running back coach. I was going to retire. He brought me back. I coached tight ends. I worked with the specialists. And then the last year, actually, when Richie retired, I retired again. Started working with a couple of guys who were running the WingT like as a consultant. And then Mike Carter asked me to come on staff as the offensive coordinator. And I spent my last 2 years, running the WingT up at Bloomfield High School. And that kind of like sums up the coaching of Ed Sadloch.
Wow. It's amazing that you summed up 50 years in about 2 minutes. And obviously you didn't do your own self-justice, but it's
he might be the quickest we have to reel it off with the most years and reeled it off the quickest. So I'm for that. Nice job, Coach.
Listen, I've got my resume in front of me, but I haven't looked at it yet, so I'm probably not correct with half the stuff. But
that's fine. Okay. Whose resume is correct?
Yes. Well, I try, but I don't know. Like I said, 50, 51, who cares? You stop counting.
Right. How did you decide? I mean, I guess maybe Ramapo was the beginning impetus of this, but because you mentioned it. How did you decide on the WingT becoming the offense that you really wanted to run? From the get-go when you brought it to Bailey Ellard and Cedar Grove.
Well, actually, when I was in Garfield, once I went to 2 head coaches. The second one was Ken Bohannon. Kenny was there, and another good friend of mine, Ron Surback. We were all together, the 3 of us, and we went up to see John Bauer up in Randolph. John Bauer Sr. Very secretly. Okay, at the time, it was, everything was hush-hush with John Bauer Sr., God rest his soul. And we learned from there. We started attending the Delaware clinics there when we were at Garfield. And then, I got to know it so well, even though, in my playing career and working for Tom, everybody was in the I at that time. They were running their I formations and stuff like that. And we went with the WingT. And, eventually after I left Garfield, went to Ramapo, I connected with the Delaware staff, and I wound up working their camp for 11 years with Coach Raymond and Coach Kempsky and Coach Perry and all those guys. And then I got to know Donnie Smolin and Jerry Gallagher and John Sineski, who was at Belleville, a longtime coach at Belleville. And we all became very good friends. And, we kind of like tested each other on the WingT, and we got very knowledgeable with it. And as a matter of fact, today, Donnie, Jerry, and I are running WingT camps, and we're running a clinic in North Jersey. So, the WingT has been part of my life, I guess, ever since my coaching days started, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 years with Tom Cangelosi in Garfield.
Yeah, the WingT offense is so successful and so dominant from a run game standpoint, especially obviously lots of places, but especially in the Northeast. But there are places I remember in Georgia, down all the way down the Valdosta area. There's a program that's run it for years. That's very successful with it. All over the country, you'll find different places where people run the WingT and has had great success with it. And it's kind of especially with the advent of spread and power spread and run and shoot concepts, it's the antithesis as far as philosophically, but all of those offenses are now drawing, especially blocking scheme wise, principles from the WingT and how they block things and how they try to get people from the edge, like the jet sweep you see in the NFL. I mean, the jet sweep became famous in the WingT, right? So all these things have now in spots and pieces been utilized in every facet of every single offense. And for me, like as a coach, as I became more and more evolved as a coach, I went away from just pure power and went to blocking schemes that were WingT principle based blocking schemes, and the ability, and obviously running power with it, but the schemes that were much more involved as far as being able to get guys off the ball with the WingT and easier for players to block. Utilizing those schemes within the spread helped our running game become so much more successful, including running games with the quarterback, right? So talk about, the principles of the WingT, some of the things that really make it different and more successful than other schemes.
Well, I think you have to look at the history and how it evolved. I think the first thing, like when I first started at Ramapo, we ran with a split end once in a while, but we did run with 2 tight ends. When I went to Parsippany, we had 2 tight ends. And, the WingT, again, old school, 2 tight ends, wing, 2 backs in the backfield. It was a 4-back attack. Although, I think in high school, if you only had 1 quarterback, you kind of held back on having him run a lot, unless he was a burly kid.
Yeah, somebody that could take the hits.
Yeah. I used to tell a kid when we used to run a toss to the fullback that if you're under 160 pounds, get out of the way. If you're over 160 pounds, you can lead them. But it's
a hell of a rule. It's a hell of a rule.
It's a situation where again, some years you're fullback oriented, some years you're halfback oriented.
Depending on your personnel.
Right. It all depends on your personnel, and you can adapt and run the plays that you think are best going to go. And again, it's series based. Okay. The 20 series is the Buck Sweep series. I call it the teen series. People call it something else. That's the Jet series for us. 30 series is power. 50 series for me was sprint out. 60 series for me was once we evolved from under center to shotgun, which was like a 3-step shotgun pattern from, that was our longer pass routes and stuff. 80 series, of course, was your belly series, down, belly, cross block, and belly sweep now. But again, the angles of blocking, I had 155-pound guards. I didn't have 250-pound guards. Bigger not necessarily is better.
No.
I think with the WingT, if you could teach an offensive lineman how to get into their hip and stay there. And right. we started out shoulder blocking all through the 70s. We were a shoulder blocking team. I would say probably more towards my time at Cedar Grove, we got into the hands a little bit. We finished with the hands when we were losing people. If we started to cause a little separation, we would try to bring our hands up and regain some kind of control. You know how quick a play hits nowadays. So the initial thing is the shoulder coming off with the snap count and trying to stay with that shoulder and then going with the hands. The thing that hurt the Buck Sweep, I think, as we progressed through the years, was the wingback's inability to cross body block. Okay, so now you got a little kid on a bigger kid, and it was tough to do anything. What we did there is we decided to cut splits down. Instead of traditionally being with a 2x2 split with the wingback, we cut him down to where he could at least try to get into the guy's hip and then finish with his hands. But that's basically what it was. It was angle blocking. Depending if you had a quarterback, which we had at Cedar Grove, we had a lot of good.
Yeah.
If you had a quarterback, that hybrid stuff kind of appealed to me, and that's why we kind of drifted there from around 1999 to when I left. So the WingT is just it's multifaceted. I've seen people try to stop it. You can shift, you can motion, you can.
I'm sure you've seen every defense to try and prevent it or stop it along the road. You've seen, what works, what doesn't work, or what has the best chance to work. You know,
right? And just to update you, like this year, like we weren't really a power team, and I think if I had more time instead of retiring, I would probably do power a little bit more next year, but. Like we would run down, which basically is the same scheme, but you got a guard kicking out rather than a fullback. And if you don't have a fullback to kick out, you can't really run power. You can pull the guard all you want through the hole, but if he can't budge that defensive end, you're in trouble. So we went with down. And now this year at Bloomfield, I said to Coach Carter, I said, maybe you should start thinking about power because we do have a stocky type fullback coming back at Bloomfield, and he's almost like an offensive guard. I hope he's not going to listen to this, but he's the type of kid who can do the kick out rather than pulling the guard, and the wingback doesn't have to get involved in the down block. So there's a lot of things that encompass this WingT. I can go on for hours talking about series and stuff, but that's basically what it is: angle blocking and knowing your personnel and knowing what they can do.
I think the most difficult thing, having played against it many times, and then try to incorporate a lot of the principles, at least blocking scheme wise, into it, and then coached at. I've been an analyst for the last few years since I stopped being a head coach for Old Japan, and Coach Dunn, he's basically his run game is a wing T, but from shotgun, right? So
Right.
he was an old school wing T guy, and played under it, and then as he evolved and he got Devin Fuller came along, he didn't put him in the shotgun, and then realized, hey, this really works well, and gave you a QB run game with it, but the blocking schemes, what I think is so amazing about it, and I'm at first from a blocking scheme standpoint, is that it's very simple for any lineman to learn and understand, and by staying on their path and being able to obviously blow through the hip and stepping down. Once they understand it, they really have an advantage because they could fly off the ball, which I think is a huge advantage of the wing T. And defenses have a huge disadvantage in the sense that a lot of guys are taught, they don't really teach their guys to read guards through to the backs at high school. Obviously as you go up, they start to learn that, and which, but a lot of high school coaches teach them, hey, look at the backfield, see where the ball's going, see ball, get ball, right? Well, you can't do that against the wing T. So because backs are going in different directions, and if you do that, your linebacker is going to go in the wrong direction. And then the third thing I thought is what you kind of just touched on is you can switch the role of the blocker. So I remember one of my first years of coaching, we played. I had this guy, Steve Baharnas, played at Rutgers, and he was great athlete. And his freshman year at high school, he had like 140 tackles. We lost to Waldwick the year before. They were run the wing T. That next year, we beat Waldwick, and Baharnas had 1 million tackles. We taught him, hey, to get over the top on the down blocks. And then we played Hawthorne later on in the year, which had a belly scheme off of the wing T, where quarterback would run it. What they did is they switched to blocking, where they assigned the tight end to come down on the middle linebacker. And I could tell you that this Steve Baharnas played Division I, played in the NFL briefly. I've never seen a kid so frustrated. We were trying to explain to him what was happening, and obviously he was smart. He learned how to stop the wing T in a few games before, and now they were coming down with the tight end and just closing them off. And really, the tight end wasn't even killing. He was just basically right in the way, boom, and that was the play. And that's the guy you had to stop from making tackles. So those are things that I really love about it that made it so difficult to stop. That really smart wing T coaches, guys that really understand how to evolve the offense, could always adapt to what your strengths were on defense and your players that you had that were dominant. And like you said, whether it was using the jet series, whether it was using the fullback in the trap, whether it was using the buck sweep, and leveraging those things to really to get an advantage. Talk a little bit about those kind of things with the wing T.
Well, like these last couple of years, we were big on trading our tight end. In other words, we would come out in single back, what we call red and blue, with two wings and a wide out, and we would go trade, and we would move the tight end over to the wide side.
It's all it takes.
And that would be we'd be unbalanced. We would be unbalanced, and we could crack with the split end. We could reduce his split.
Creates tons of issues for the defense.
So that was some of the things that we did. You could shift. We go from 100 to 900, where you can line up with both ends, especially if you have a tight end, split end type of kid. You can shift him out, bring him back in, slide the wings back and forth. There's so many things. And you know what? I learned a long time ago, and I'm not blowing my own horn, okay? But I've talked to several people about this. When you're in a game and you're a defensive player, I do not care if you only play the wing T once a year. I don't care what your coach tells you. You're going to have a problem. you're going to have a problem because you're going to get caught looking in the backfield.
100%.
You're going to be caught reading your guard, and then all of a sudden we'll pull both guards and trap the other guy, and you'll be way out of position to make a play. And these are things that, again, if you got to have good assistant coaches. You have to have good football guys, okay? And I was fortunate at Cedar Grove. I had a great staff, okay? And I had guys in the box who would who could call things down to me that I couldn't see on the field, okay? And we would be able to come up with things like that. We would even go at halftime and make something up, just to screw up what they were looking at. We would, when we used to meet on Sundays, we used to sit there and again, not to be disparaging, but I used to say, I walk in. We were fortunate to have an offensive and defensive staff at Cedar Grove. Between our volunteers and our paid assistants, we were able to go into 2 separate rooms and watch a defensive film and an offensive film and get this stuff done. Now,
which is phenomenal to have at a Group 1 program.
But again, it was former players coming back who wanted to contribute to the program, But
which the credit to your culture that you created, that guys even wanted to come back to be a part of it.
Well, I kind of tugged at him a little bit, but
come on, Coach. I mean, you're a little intimidating, like you tugging now. Hey, if that's my head
not
coach,
anymore.
hey, we're coming.
I'm not intimidating anymore.
Come on,
but
you still got it.
But don't make me lose my train of thought. But here's the deal. I would go in and I would say to my offensive staff, find the fish. I don't care if it's in the secondary. I don't care if it's on a line of scrimmage. Find the fish. Now, you guys know, okay, most teams are right-handed. So you're going to put your better people to the right. So it doesn't take a genius to figure out, let's go left. It doesn't. And these are the things that we did as a staff that we were able to relate to our kids. Now, and again, the WingT can be very complicated, just like the spread can be I spent 5 years at St. Peter's. I still have no idea what they're doing, but I was a running back coach. They didn't throw the ball to the back. Every once in a while they did. Everything else was to the wide receivers. But, it was a situation where you just, you go, you get a feel for what they're going to try to do to you. And then you go out and you have a list of what you want to accomplish, and you just accomplish it. You try to accomplish it. Now, sometimes you don't get everything. Like you were talking before about offensive linemen. Do you know how many times in my career I had to explain gap down linebacker? And it doesn't come automatically, because all of a sudden, like I said, when the garbage hits the fan in the middle of the game, there's movement and this kid panics. All right. And he doesn't realize somebody else is responsible for the guy head up to outside him. Okay. And he blocks him. And all of a sudden you lose your down block. These are things that you have to harp, the fundamentals, the techniques, and everything like that about the WingT on a daily basis. Because again, these are kids. These are not professional athletes and stuff like that. You don't have them like Texas has them for an activity period. These are New Jersey 3-sport kids.
Yep.
So you really have to hammer that home in your practice schedule.
Well, it's what's incredible about the philosophy, you talked about, coaching at St. Peter's where they run the spread. Well, there's so much spread offense now that I think that defenses, because they practice against the spread, just get a little bit softer. And now it enables the WingT to have a better advantage because you're more physical. And it's so interesting to me how football kind of like, I just saw a thing the other day. I think it was the guy JB. He said, if I was coaching again in college, I'd line up and use multiple tight ends and be in the run game because everybody's practicing against the spread all the time, and you come downhill on them, and they're not going to know what to do. You have linebackers that are weighing 215 pounds in college, and as opposed to middle linebacker years ago was 30, right? Yeah. So. It was a run stopper. Now the guy has to cover the pass. Well, all of a sudden you go into it. I think that's what's helped Georgia and Alabama sustain success, even though they do all the stuff as well. But really, when it comes down to it, they turn around, they hand the ball to the back, and they try to make sure they get guys off the ball, because the physicality still has a place in football, because of the fact that everybody's trying to spread it out. And the WingT teams, you can just see from New Jersey. We talked about it last week when we had Wilbur Valdez on, and how many WingT teams made it to the state championship this year.
Yeah, you posted it the other day.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting, because you see these kind of ebbs and flows, right? And I remember that, the mid 90s, late 90s, when like Glen Rock took off with the run and shoot, and obviously Derek, playing at Butler, they were a run and shoot, and the run and shoot was such a novelty, and guys would still line up, not cover the inside slot, and they just throw it out there, right? And the defenses had to evolve, and all of a sudden the run and shoot, it took over. And then when I was coaching at Sadloch, we were running the triple option. I was an assistant there under Darren White, and we were running the triple option, the Navy triple option, and that had evolved. But all the way through all those years, the WingT teams always still had a large amount of success. If you took the win-loss record of well-coached WingTs, I'm not talking about guys who saw it, maybe on YouTube and just tried to implement it because they think it, but guys who studied the WingT and understand it, those teams have such a high win ratio, and I think it's a tribute to obviously the running game, but talk about how the culture becomes a part of it, like the success of the WingT, success of the scheme, and how that becomes part of your culture and your team.
Well, again, you can't coach stupid. If you got a kid like David Sinisi or a kid like Patsy Caggiano, you give them the ball. You know what I'm saying? And your kids understand we're going to run the football. Okay. Now, if you get a kid like when we were when it was in 90, my last couple of years there, where we had Paul Rufo and David Njoku and Joey Slattery.
Not a bad guy to throw the ball.
You throw the ball to those people. I mean, it's common sense to me. But like you say, guys like Donnie Smolin, consistent 300-game winner. I mean, Donnie and I are very good friends. And he's still old school, 2 tight ends, man. Yep. He if he was coaching today, he'd still be in 2 tight ends. Dougie Wilkins, Dougie got criticized because he wasn't spread.
He didn't want to change. It wasn't changed. He didn't want to change. The kid, hey, this is what are we doing? This is this old school. Listen, a lot of years of playing Mountain Lakes and Cedar Grove in the playoffs, brother. Like a lot of years of that. They always see those teams, and that was the WingT was the way that these guys were able to, like you said, be successful without maybe those guys that were when other guys would. All right, well, if you have an athletic quarterback that does all this kind of stuff, but maybe he's not, he's not 6'4", like, he's not a Division I guy, like when you were at Peters with Champ Long, right? I mean, I'm sure Champ was more than capable of running the WingT as a quarterback if he wanted to, but that's not what his strengths weren't that, right? Yeah. Like you had big offensive linemen that could hold up for 4 seconds in order to throw the ball on a 5-step or something of that nature. Well, you guys, a lot of these teams adapt to what they have on the team and use it to their benefit.
Well, again, you look at St. Joe's Montvale, okay? They had huge offensive linemen. Why? Because they ran the ball, okay? Like, you look at St. Peter's, and I love my time at St. Peter's, but our linemen weren't 6'4", 6'5". Nope. They were 6 foot, maybe 6'1", 6'2". And I said, my feeling was that because you didn't run the ball enough, you weren't attracting the big linemen to come to St. Peter's.
Absolutely.
Now I think they're running the ball a little bit more. I think they're getting that. But again, most of your spread offenses now, you talk about, you talk about gap schemes, and that's what WingT is. It's a gap scheme blocking attack. And I just think that there's certain elements of the WingT that some of these young coaches don't realize that they're doing. You know what I'm saying? They're doing it because somebody in the spread did it. But where did the spread guy get it?
Right.
We went, Donnie and I guess when towards the end, we used to go like to Alabama to the clinics, and we used to go to Auburn where Malzahn was there. We went to there once, and Malzahn, again, he was a WingT guy.
Absolutely.
Yep.
High school.
And we're sitting there, and I got a chance to meet him. I got a chance to meet Saban. But I said to Malzahn, I said, listen, I've got every Delaware clinic note from 1978 to when Tubby Raymond retired. I said, do you want him? He goes, absolutely. I told him it's going to cost him a fortune. But
he might be able to afford it.
But it's
or a spot on the staff in handling high school relations in Florida. That's not a bad job.
UCF, Central Florida sounds pretty nice. Like hey.
Yeah. Central Florida. You know what? I've got a place in Bonita Springs.
There you
that
go.
we go down to in the winter. And I go see. It's crazy. You go see spring football practice. You go see 7-on-7s in friggin' February. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you're out there in shorts and a t-shirt.
But again, what bothers me is when you get these so-called geniuses who say the WingT is dead. You can't get recruited from the WingT.
Yeah, okay.
And all that garbage that's pumped into their heads.
David and Joe playing in the league.
That bothers me. It's like, what are you here? What are you there for in high school? I'm not there to put a kid in Division I. I'm there to do interscholastic athletics. Okay. And my job as a head football coach is to win football games for that high school program the best way I know how. Some of these people don't understand it. Right now, it's like anything else. Did you remember the old chain of command? Okay. If you didn't like the football coach, you went to the AD. If you didn't like the AD, you didn't like with the AD, you bought. Parents today, boom, right to the superintendent of school, right to a board member. They want, listen, we don't like the WingT. The WingT's not good. And guys lose their jobs because they win 6 games and they're just about to turn the corner. Well, it's not. My kid can't get recruited. Your kid is 5'9". Where's he going?
He's playing receiver, runs a 5'1" 40.
He's 5'9". He's an offensive guard. Where's he going? He's not going to Nebraska.
Be lucky if we got him to FDU. No offense to FDU. But this is what we're talking about.
You can't play in the NJAC. You can't play in the NJAC at offensive line.
That's exactly right.
100%.
It's just crazy. It's crazy nowadays.
It's what we deal with. And listen, we deal with it on a regular basis, right?
I'm sure you do.
It's what it is. It's the awareness of, please understand that this is, why doesn't my guy have an offer? Or my kid should be doing this. Or if you did this, if you threw him the ball more, he'd have more time. Like you said, Coach, he's 5'8". He runs a 5'1" 40. Or he's an offense. He's the center. He's 5'9". That's great. He's a great wrestler and all that. You know what I mean? It's just the realization and the self-awareness of what's really going on, or the amount of, because we're so quick to what these guys see, what these parents see on the social media. They see that top 3% and they think, oh, well, my guy should be there. You don't understand. Bergen Catholic just won our state title. They went down to Florida and lost by 60. This is what we're talking about. Yeah. And we have this argument all the time, or the discussion about what state you live in, what high school you go to, where you play matters when you're that kind of tweener, in terms of, you don't fit the intangibles of, hey, I'm looking for an offensive lineman. If he's not 6'3" or better, he got no shot.
Right. Yeah. It's to me, it's just, you got to enjoy the high school experience. That's what you got to do. And you go from there. And if you're that good, they'll find you. I'm sitting there at my banquet, what was it, 2000, David's senior year in the JUCO, 2013 or 14. I don't even remember. But, we had all the seniors standing up, and David's like 6'4", and then I got all the little Italians underneath him, And I said to the parents, listen, if you really want to know what a Division I athlete looks like, take a look.
There you go, buddy.
Go to Miami. You know,
and by the way, he's a 7-foot high jumper.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. By the way, he'd be a
foot.
gold medalist if he was in the. If he stuck with that.
I remember seeing him down at the state championships in track. High jump 7 feet.
He looks like not to mention he looks like a Greek god. So I
yeah.
mean,
And that was all weightlifting in high school. Yeah, you should have seen me trying to grab him into the weight room. That was another story. But you know, some people are just born with great genes. Look at me. I'm terrible. I have not. I got nothing. I still don't look like I work out.
But even that, because you also look at it, right? Like a David Sinisi, right? Goes to Monmouth, all-time leading rusher, you know, has a great career and whatnot. So you can be successful, you know what I'm saying? But you got to understand, be successful where? All these guys want to Division I. Well, even if you go Division I, I mean, you're now a dude among dudes. Like everybody was the best player on their team. So now you have to now get yourself to that extra level, ramp it up a little bit, even when you get there, guy. Like, you know, I don't think they understand what it actually takes when you get to that position as well. They expect it to just be, oh, well, I've always been the best player and this and that. And now all of a sudden you're just another guy in the room. All right, man. Like now it's really time to take it to that next level.
Coach, look at the transfer portal now. How many guys go and all of a sudden after a year, well, I can't see me playing now. Well,
see you later.
When I played, I had to wait till my senior year.
That was part of it. Yeah.
We
when you laid it out, all right, I'm going in here. I know I'm going to redshirt this year. Okay, there's one. All right, now, hey, how do I make the travel team, right? Get me on a special team. Okay.
Well, that's all gone.
Where do I factor into the depth chart, right? Like, hey, all right, I'm playing all specials and now I'm in this package or that package and now once you're, I'm not starting, I'll go somewhere else.
Right.
The transfer portal has been obviously a negative for high school athletes as far as getting recruited, especially at the highest level.
Right. But it takes down the number of scholarships.
One of the things I've told parents that if you were to look at it from the flip side, what is the positive of the transfer portal? Well, in today's world, right? In the old days, you'd say, hey, listen, wherever you go, like, you know, when I went to UConn, it wasn't so easy to just transfer out. You really kind of had to try to become a starter because you have to sit out and all that kind of stuff. But
coaches would say like you can't transfer, like I'm not giving you your release.
One of the positives of it is I say, hey, listen, embrace the level that you do get recruited at, because if somehow you become this mega star, you know, you go and catch 70 balls for 1,000 yards at whatever school you're at, and you belong at a higher level now, you actually can. That's if you were to look at the one positive flip side of it, you can move up. You can have that opportunity. So let's say, you know, I saw like as soon as the transfer portal opened for the FCS and below, there were 3 kids from Gannon University, which I never heard of, Division II school, went to all FBS schools, transferred up. Now, it stinks if you're that coach, right, of that Division II school, but you develop that kid and he moves on.
You put the work in.
But, like, from a player standpoint, like, because everybody's so panicky, like, I need to play at this level. I'm like, you know what? If you go to the level that you have the opportunity at, and it works out really well, you love the school, you stay there, great. Somehow you become the megastar of megastars, and you're that few percent of people that can do that, and you can move up. That opportunity is there for you. So I said that's, you know, hey, now the negative side, hey, there's not as many kids in high school going Division I. I'd probably say half the number of kids are going Division I that used to go. Like when I played all those years when you were coaching, you knew if, you know, David Njoku comes in, like, you knew, okay, this kid is a bona fide Division I prospect. This is a kid that's going to have a real opportunity. Well, now you might have that kid, but there is kind of a depends thing. Like, you know, if he's really, really what they call now a 4 or 5 star, yeah, he's going to get recruited. He's going to get found. But like kind of that in-between guy, there is a little bit of like, do they fall to FCS now? How does that work? But that part has changed. So that part of like, do you know you have a bona fide Division I prospect when he walks in the door? That part I think is frustrating for high school coaches. Like if I was still a head coach at high school, I would really be frustrated with the fact that like I have this kid, I know he's a Division I player. In the older days, I go and talk to a coach about it. Now, there are coaches that come out and visit, but it's not as much as they used to. Talk about how you see the negatives and the positives of recruiting are today. Like, I mean, as you see it, as you see it.
I'm frustrated with what's going on nowadays. I think I'm frustrated with some coaches on a high school level on how they try to lure kids to their school. Probably saying that, listen, we can get you a scholarship, and you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
You do your research. That bothers the heck out of me. I mean, it's like they're convincing people that they're going to do this for their kid just so they can look good. It has nothing to do with the kid. Okay. And then when it comes time for the kid to be offered and he's not, again, what do you say? What do you say? Like I used to sit there with parents their junior season and tell them, look, if your kid is interested in playing, this is where I think he can play. You may not agree with me, but this is where I'm telling you, this is where he can play. Nowadays, again, now I know you guys do your research, okay? But a number of things over, the last couple of years, and maybe even when I was a head coach, I mean, certain newspaper puts out a preseason all-county team, okay? So now here you're a parent, and you're sitting there saying, my son is preseason all-county. And then all the end of the season, he's not preseason all-county. So whose fault is it? Mine, right? The coach. Okay, that's
always
you didn't give him the ball enough.
Yep, you didn't do enough for my kid.
No, yeah, my kid. You didn't showcase my kid enough. And that's one thing. Then again, like I said, you got these guys who are saying we're going to develop you better than your town high school coach can. So come by us. Okay, bullshit. If you're I'm sorry for that, but
are you good? No, you're good.
If you're sitting there as let's say it's me recruiting one of your two kids to come to my school, and all of a sudden the kid does it. All right, I'd be pissed off. Okay, I know you guys would be ticked off. It's like, and now you go to colleges, okay, and then those guys are mad because the college coaches aren't coming in.
That's correct.
Now they're mad. And I'm saying, how dare you be mad? You did the same thing.
Right.
You're doing the same thing on the high school level. And the other thing that bothers me is that everybody's turning a blind eye to it. Nobody wants to stir the pot. I'd love to stir the pot. I probably have to get lawyered up and somebody's going to have to pay for the bankroll, but I'd love to stir the pot because I know what's going on. I hear.
Yep.
You also have a very different perspective, Coach, because you've been in both worlds, right? Like you've coached at a small public school that was very good, where guys would come in and try and take your younger kids, and then you've been on the other end at St. Peter's, where you see kind of the allure of a parochial bigger program when you win, right? And so you've got to see both sides. So you have that very interesting perspective where you can add to both sides, but ultimately looking at it, it's kind of, you throw your hands up on everybody's doing it, right? But we shouldn't all be doing it.
Right. Again, it's called ethics. Nobody has it anymore.
There's no morals. There's none of that. It's all about from the coach to the kid. Look at me. Right.
Look how great I am. And that's not the purpose of what we're here for.
It's not football.
That's it. It's the sport. Even you go to college now, NILs, high school, NILs. Who? Why? Why would you give a high school kid money?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's another hoop, right? Another something that coaches now have to deal with and handle. And at the end of the day, I'm expected to. my salary didn't increase, right? My hours only now increase on top of what we do already. And now you look at parents and they're expecting all of these certain things and they have no idea what actually goes into this process.
Right. I mean, they have no idea the hours you spend, and I'm following Florida closely because they get paid nothing. They get paid absolutely nothing, and they have spring practice, and they have all this other stuff that they have to deal with. But again, nobody looks at the coach and what he's doing. Okay, if the coach is winning, other sports get jealous. So if you're a parent in another sport, you're jealous. If you're a board member,
all the money?
If you're a board member, you're jealous. If your kid is not doing as well as football is, you're jealous. And it's human nature. I understand that. But you know what? You hired a person to do a job, let them do a job. And I think the parents have to understand that too. And going back to the colleges and the recruiting, it's like they're not coming because they've got their choice. Look at Ohio State's quarterback. He's gone.
11 and 1.
Now we played against him when I was at St. Peter's. Him and Marvin Harrison and the guy who was at Clemson now, the linebacker. I forgot his name. But those are three Division I kids who were going to be pros. But what did Ryan Day tell this kid to have him say I'm leaving? I don't know.
I saw it yesterday, right? Yeah. So I saw it yesterday. Apparently, from what I got off of a podcast with guys that are very in the mix at Ohio State, was his father called Ryan Day and wanted a guarantee that he was going to be the starter next year. And Ryan Day said, look, it's always going to be an open competition at Ohio State. This is kind of what it is. Yeah, he played great. Yeah, he's going to go into spring probably being the number one, but I'm not going to guarantee you he's going to be the starter. Daddy didn't like it. Transfer.
Well, he also said it in a press conference too. So Ryan Day, I saw the press conference. They asked Ryan Day, and that may be what happened with the dad, but they asked Ryan Day specifically, is he going to be your starter? Ryan Day said, basically what you said. It's Ohio State. There's going to always be a competition. He's obviously the starter right now. So, but the thing is so crazy that I see it from both sides on this. Like if you're sitting there as the starter and Ryan Day's getting interviewed in a press conference and you're the starter at Ohio State, and now he's up there saying that you may not be the guy. And he hasn't talked. If he hasn't talked to you about that yet, that's surprising to me to see in a press conference.
Right. I would hope at that level, Ryan Day.
I would say yes in the old days, not today. Like I think today, guys get up there, and Coach, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but these guys shoot from the hip sometimes when they get a question, and I don't think they're thinking through exactly how you want to answer that question. They're just kind of saying what they're almost feeling. Like maybe he was feeling, hey, maybe we have another guy better behind him. Right. And when you say in the press conference, if you haven't talked to a player about it beforehand,
you're
going to go up there in press conference and you're sitting there as a player listening to that, or a dad, even worse, if you're a dad listening to that, right? Because everybody's sensitive as it is. A dad listening to it is like, wait a minute, my kid was a starter.
Yeah, my kid just went 11 and 1.
So I could see, I see both sides of that particular situation just because I saw the press conference and I was kind of shocked that he didn't say, this is even if he wasn't your guy, you still say he's your guy because he's a starter and you could always make the change,
Right.
Well, he's your
kind of like play the game, right? Play the game a little bit.
Now. I mean, what else can the guy say, to be honest with you? It's like, I agree, maybe he should have sat and talked to the kids. But again, you know as well as I do, you stand up in a press conference, somebody throws something at you.
Right.
You got to answer.
That's a left hook. You might
That's a left hook.
Yeah.
Here it comes. Boom. Right.
You have to respond,
Yeah. I mean, unless you're Bill Belichick, right? And you're just kind of like, we're moving on to the next week. We're moving.
That might be why Bill Belichick is how he is.
That's it. That's why he's easy to hate, right?
Even the pros, right? Even the pros. All of a sudden, the off-season comes and somebody signs a multi-million-dollar contract to go from one team to the other. So now you're in the wide receiver room and you look at your buddy and say, guess what? You're not playing.
Yeah.
It's because this owner just gave this guy so much money. That's what's wrong with this sport today.
Right.
That's what's wrong.
Right.
And it's probably a lot more sports than just football, but from my vantage point, that's what's going on. It's money talks. Nobody wants to compete. Playing time is more important. Even if somebody's better than you, I deserve to play.
Right.
And that's now not how it used to be. It's not how it used to be. And I don't know. I know when parents get involved, and I've had great parents. Believe me, I've had some great parents. But when parents get involved with their kid and they think their kid is better than what he is, and again, I know you guys do the research, but nowadays we have conditioning coaches, we have position coaches in the off season.
Everybody's got handlers,
Right. You want to give me $350 to tell you you're great? I'll tell you you're great. That's how I feel. I mean, if let's be selfish, okay? Let's be selfish. Hey, you're the greatest thing I've ever seen.
There's no doubt about it. And I was an NFL agent for 6 years. Okay. And it was really interesting because I was a head football coach in high school and I was an NFL agent. And I could tell you, like with the NIL now, the way that it was as an NFL agent, just trying to work with players that you knew were going to the NFL, that actually had that ability. And it was so difficult in meaning their understanding as to what was going to happen, where you could get drafted, parents that were involved. And this is guys that were going to go to the NFL. It's just a matter of whether they were going to be drafted high or free agent, but they were all going to go. I mean, these were all top guys.
Right.
And the misinformation, misunderstanding, somebody ranks, say you're representing a player, some make-believe outfit ranks him the 10th running back when he's really the 30th, okay? And all of a sudden they're saying, well, this guy projected me as a 5th rounder. And it's like, well, that person's that's not a credible person. The only projection that matters is what the NFL has as a projection. That's it, and you go through this every year. And it was one of the reasons why I stopped doing it because, and I had some, I have guys that are still in the NFL that I represented, and they're doing great. But I remember going over, you would get fired all the time. Literally, you'd get fired because you didn't get him an appearance at a bar for $1,000. I'm serious, because his buddy got an appearance at the local car dealership for $2,000, and you didn't even bother to get him one. That's how they perceive it. You didn't get him an appearance for $1,000, and you're fired. And it's like, hey, the most important thing is that $1 million contract that you have, and you're, oh, by the way, a linebacker, not a wide receiver, where there's a little more glitz and glam. And we would go through this over and over again. And I could tell you that most of the kids, I mean, they were men, but to me, they were kids, they were good kids. It wasn't that they weren't good kids. It's that they had so many people in their ear on everything. I mean,
and it's only gotten worse.
And it wasn't just parents. It was teammates, other agents, other position coaches, like you said, your speed coach. I timed him at a 4.4 in training. I'm like, well, you ran 4.6 at your pro day. So it doesn't matter what he timed you at. It matters what the Steelers timed you at, and you get in these discussions and you feel like a crazy person. You feel like you're a crazy person because you're bringing reality to the situation so they can have a chance at a successful career. And all they want to do is think about pie in the sky. So when I bring it to NIL now in college and then high school, I mean, those kids are definitely not mature enough to know anything. They're definitely not mature enough to handle anything. No one's saying they shouldn't, college get money. Great for them. They make more money. But it creates all these other issues that no one has ever thought about. And having been an NFL agent for 6 years, I just have seen it, and I saw the greed, not necessarily from the player, but from everyone around them. Everyone. It's amazing. And so you're asking now high schoolers to figure out, like, should they go appear at a car dealership? I mean,
Seriously, who cares?
Who cares?
Who really cares? Who really cares?
Who cares? It's mom and dad, right? That are looking at this little Jimmy, little Johnny, little whatever. Wow. If we really, he's pretty good. If we can do this, we can get that. And it's all about, so like manic about it having to happen now. We need it now rather than, hey, let's do it this way. Trust the process, and down the road, we'll get this, right? It's just that immediate need for.
There's a famous YouTube my kid used to watch when he was little, and this guy Ryan. You're not there yet, but with your child, but this guy Ryan's Toys. He was a young kid. Now he's probably like a teenager now, or almost. But every parent tried to copy this Ryan's Toy. Ryan was making like $20 million a year from basically opening up like, oh, here's my Matchbox, like, and he would just do videos of it. So they made the kid made all this money. Obviously, the family you would see the videos as all of a sudden the family was in this new house. They went from living in a small house to now they're in a mansion, in Hawaii, and all of a sudden you had all these copycats, right? I mean, thousands of them trying to, be the next Ryan. That's what it reminds me of when I see it, like with NIL. Like, it reminds me of this player over here got this quarterback XYZ got $2 million, right, as a quarterback to go here. Now everyone says, well, that should be me.
Yep.
And that's not realistic. It's just not realistic.
It's the smallest percentage that we're focusing and spending the most time on, when in reality, like, okay, that's maybe this number of guys, but majority of them are here. I mean, look, we're talking over 1,000 guys in the portal, right? I mean,
1,500 now,
I think all of you are going to get money? Like, what's going on?
People don't realize that there are 50 states in the union. And all they think is if my son got Group 1 All-State first team for the Star Ledger, that's the biggest thing that could happen.
Coach, we talk about it
groups All-State, but these are how people think today.
We
talk about it. We have this discussion all the time about, look, this is New Jersey. And you might be a great player in New Jersey,
right?
But we're not talking Florida, Texas, California, Georgia, Ohio, right? Pennsylvania. Like, we have this discussion all the time where we talk about, look, you really want to see it? Have these guys travel out of state, right? Like I said, Bergen Catholic wins the state title. They're supposed to be, big, blah, 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 whatever. They lose by 60 in Florida to a team that's only in the semifinals, right? That's a team that's got 7 guys going Division I. And by the way, in state, because Florida has 5 schools that are Division I schools for colleges. New Jersey, we got 1, buddy. 1. If you're not going to Rutgers or Monmouth, like.
I was fortunate when I was down in Florida. I spoke at a Glazier clinic down there because I was down there, and I met Steve Walsh, who at that time was a high school coach at I think it's in West Palm Beach or something like that, or I don't know. But Steve and I became friends, and he got the job as director of football operations at IMG. And he invited me up there, and I drove up from Bonita Springs up to IMG. And he took me on a tour of the facilities. And and here I am, a little guy from Cedar Grove with a friggin' 2 classrooms that the weight room, we had him convert into a weight room, 2 classrooms. And he's showing me this big friggin' weight room. Oh, we got another one on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, there's another one over here.
And Michigan's working out here. Harbaugh was down there and stuff like that. We're watching the practice from his office and stuff. And I'm saying, boy, there are people who the better half lives. And then when I coached in the Army All-American game,
that's right.
We practiced at a high school stadium in San Antonio. It was like, holy shit!
And you got to be around some of these guys that are like, these NFL guys played in this. You're like, okay, that's a Division I.
Right. Coach, I was an offensive line coach. There's a guy by the name of Josh Corey who works for the Titans now. He played for Spurrier at Florida. He was my assistant. Okay, because he was more of a spread guy and the zone guy and stuff like that. I was the gap scheme guy. And we had on that team the kid from the Colts who played that in Jersey.
Quentin Nelson.
Quentin Nelson. We had a kid who played at Michigan State. We had a kid who played at North Carolina. Boom, boom, boom. We got beat by 30. Okay, we got beat by 30. We also had Nick Chubb.
Yep.
And the other guy. Okay,
that was Sony Michel's year.
Sony Michel got beat by 30. And you know why? Because all we wanted to do was throw the ball to the perimeter.
Was Mike Smith on that staff?
Who?
Mike Smith, head coach American Heritage.
Yes, I think so.
He's a Jersey guy. He's from High Point originally. So we've had him on. I'm real. I was with him. I was in his wedding. You know, like him and I are real tight. So we talk all the time. Now, I'm telling you right now, you want to talk about, I don't want to speak for him, but I'm just telling you, since he's become the head coach, he's gotten a lot grayer.
Yeah. Well, but what are you going to do? But, and then I was able to coach with Richie Hansen in the Marine game out in Los Angeles. Okay. And that was eye opener. Hey, coach, you got to put more points on the board because we got people watching. It's crazy stuff. Thank God you're there a week and you're gone,
Right.
Put up with that stuff. But I mean, there are other places all over this country that these people should see. Now, going back to what you said before, I remember being at Parsippany. I'm not going to mention the kid's name or what school the father said he was going to go. But the father came in, he said, "Is my kid going to play quarterback?" And this was like my first or second year at Parsippany. I said, "Well, I really think this kid is better. We're going to give him an opportunity, but I think this kid's better." He said, "Well, then we're going to transfer." I said, "You're going to transfer?" He said, "Yeah, we're going to go to such and such a high school, a Catholic school." I said, "Okay." I said, "And when he doesn't start there, what are you going to do?"
Yep.
What are you going to do? You know what? If you can't start back then,
if you can't start at your public school, you sure as hell can't start at a private school.
Right. If you can't play quarterback, you go find someplace else to play.
Correct.
If you're a football player, I don't care. You go be a tight end. You go be a running back. You try your hand on something. But nowadays, it's I'm a quarterback. Well, we want to move. No, I'm a quarterback.
And Dave and I have this conversation because Dave's son right now, he just finished his first year of tackle football, 8U. And Dave had phenomenal roster, right? Guys that could do a lot of things. And his best running back, dad wanted him to be a quarterback, correct, Dave? And it was back and forth. And you're 8. Go play every position. We don't know what you're going to be. Stop pigeonholing yourself into this position. And Dave knows I'm a huge defensive side of the ball, man. Every guy to me is an outside backer or a DB because you're getting 3 snaps a series. You want to go play offense and score touchdowns, you might not even be on the field for that series if that's not your grouping or that's not. Go play wideout. How many targets are you really going to get a game? Where you go play defense, I get 3 plays every snap, every series to go make 3 tackles. It's big advocate of try everything, play everything. And as you progress, mature, and get older, now we can see where you fit into an offense or a defense.
And you play multiple sports. I'm deadly against guys who tell kids, "Hey, just concentrate on football, get in the weight room, get big." And they're freaking 7 years old. Come on, stop.
Go play basketball, go wrestle, which is what I love about Dave's kid. Dave's kid, he plays tackle football, he plays flag football, he plays basketball, he does track, he does baseball, he's doing everything.
He loves it.
Great. He wants to
remember being a kid, you loved playing every sport.
I love the change of season, right?
If
From
you were a
football
sports person, you wanted to play every sport.
You know how many times I had to play a Thanksgiving Day game, and the very next day I woke up sore as hell, but I had to go play the first day of basketball practice. Yeah. It's like, oh shit.
Great.
Right? And it's like, I'm in shape from football. No, you're not, bro. You are not in basketball shape whatsoever. So figure it out. Go compete. These guys don't. Yeah. It's different.
My generation didn't have these organized leagues other than maybe Little League. We didn't have the football leagues and stuff like that.
Yes.
So we played telephone pole to telephone pole, running into cars and stuff like that. We played touch football. We play wiffle ball.
Whatever game,
I grew
kickball,
up in
tag,
Garfield.
I don't care. We were doing something. We were
I grew up in
outside.
Garfield near a chemical plant, and on their shower wall, their building, we drew a box. So we played stickball there. We would hit into different yards, single, double, triple, home run. We had a factory blow up every once in a while when we were playing. It was what we did.
It's all right. We're good. I just got hit with them. We're fine. Let's go. Like, I gotta be home.
We didn't worry about, what color is my uniform? Does it fit? Does it do this?
I'm not playing it. I mean, I think I just saw something where a college basketball player refused to play in the game because they didn't have the right tights for him. Swear to God.
He had to find a new school.
In a press conference. Well, they're like, hey, why wasn't so-and-so, whatever, it looked like, well, let me tell you the story about my guy, right? Well, we didn't have the right tights for him, which we've never had these tights for him. But today he decided that this was going to be an issue. So that's why he did this. That's why he did that. Eventually we came to a mutual. He goes, and he just looked at the press conference and just threw his hands up like, this is what we're dealing with now.
Wow. Yeah. It boggles my mind. It boggles me. Yet I'll still watch it.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course.
That's the problem, right? Yeah. Is because
they realize it's the best product there is. That's what it's better than any, those reality shows they all create. It's football, college football, pro football, better than any reality show you could ever imagine.
Why do you think Hard Knocks is such a great show and it gets so much whatever? Because everybody wants to see the behind the scenes of football, man. Damn, it took over God's day, right? Football is Sundays. Like, it took over the day of the Lord, for God's sakes. Like, this is what we're talking about.
I'll tell you, last year, Donnie Smolden, myself, his son, and his brother-in-law, we got tickets for Alabama Auburn. So I'm coaching. It's my first year coaching for Mike Carter. And I said, Mike, do you think this team's going to make the playoff? He said, no. I said, good, because I'm going to the Alabama Auburn game.
On this date.
So we went down there, okay, and we flew down the day after Thanksgiving, and we spent the day we landed in Atlanta, we drove to Tuscaloosa, spent the day there, ate dinner there, just walked around campus, and then the next day was game day, so we got up early, and Ohio State was playing Michigan, so we found an establishment where we could sit and watch and maybe have lunch before the other game started. Then you go past all the sororities and fraternities and the bands and stuff. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying, this is heaven.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we walked into the stadium and our seats were like right near the Auburn band. We had 4 tickets near we never got to the seats because we were in the corner of the end zone, right where, we were maybe 10 yards, 15 yards from the field. And we just stayed there. That's where all the scoring happened. If you see the Alabama-Auburn game from last year, you find the Auburn band, you'll find us like right underneath them because we were standing there the whole game. We never got to our seats. Amazing. So now that I'm retired, we're trying to parlay that into something every year. Like I just contacted Bobby Diaco, who's at LSU, and I said once the schedule comes out, I said, see if you can
Cedar Grove guy.
Yeah, 4 tickets. Kyle Flood. Hey, Kyle, how about Texas, Oklahoma? If you stay there.
He's still,
but you got to wait for them to stay
Texas,
there.
Right?
They got to stay there. If not, you're screwed. But, that's something, that I would love to just do that. One game a year, just go see that.
A lot better than going to see Rutgers Temple.
I was at Rutgers Penn State last year, and I think Greg's doing a great job. He's trying, but again, it's a different animal.
Everything's working against them,
Yep. There's 50 states in the union, going back to that saying,
Yep.
Yeah, it's true.
And listen, if you want to talk obviously that this is the NIL stuff or whatever, listen, money and whatnot, there's still taxes and stuff involved, man. So these kids are going to start looking at it like, hey, why don't I just go to school in Florida where there's no state tax? There's a reason LeBron left for Miami. You know what I'm saying? Like, these kids aren't stupid.
Pro football
Parents
players
are
the
moving
same
there
way.
for-
When there's certain teams that aren't going to get taxed.
So I'm saying, like, hey, I play for the Jaguars. I play for the Dolphins, right? It's a little different than, hey, I play for Cleveland or, hey, I play for the LA Rams where you're talking.
Right.
It's what it is.
Yep.
It's just the way that the different states are, obviously states like Florida, Georgia, Texas, California, I have so many Division I players. It's this. I try to relate it all the time the same way. It's like, okay, you're a great suburban basketball player.
Yeah.
Now you think you're good? Let's go take you to the courts in the city and see how good you really are. You know, and that's the way it is when you're in a small. It's not that Jersey is a smaller state population wise, but the opportunities to play football are not as large as maybe because, you know, some of the southern states have the same population, but many more opportunity. Like Louisiana, you know, 3 times the amount of Division I players as New Jersey, even though it's a smaller state. Yeah. But I've been to Louisiana. I've seen what the level of like people think that football is important in New Jersey, and it is. It is. New Jersey's a good, very good football state. But you go to like Louisiana,
nothing like the South.
Only thing they care about. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just
you interview for a job down there, right? And it's like, hey, that's great. I'm glad you have a master's in this and you've taught for this many years. But how many Division I players have you produced? Like, I've literally gotten that in an interview from a principal to coach in different states. Like, that's great. I'm glad that you can teach and you got the degree and all that. But what do you produce on a football field? You know,
right?
Plus, the rules kind of restrict us up here. You know, these guys get spring ball. These guys, the weather. These guys can go to any park in Florida and go work out.
Yeah, think about spring practice. I mean, if you're a high school kid down south, you're getting probably 60 plus days extra.
Yes,
practicing than kids up in Jersey or kids up in
look,
New York.
We talked to my guy Mike at American Heritage, which is a top program in Florida. And listen, he says, right, look, spring ball, we have to adjust our spring ball because I encourage my guys to go do other sports, right? I mean, Dave, how much he preached track and all just go do another sport. I'll move spring practice so you can get both, right?
No, it's funny you say that. I was down in Florida when Naples had their spring ball, and I forgot the name of the coach there. He's a longtime coach. He's since retired. So I'm watching your quarterbacks, and they stink. And I'm saying, how the hell is this guy, has such a great program? Well, his kids were playing baseball. He said the quarterbacks will be here in 45 minutes. What a difference.
I said the same. I mean, look, his receiving core in DB is the 4x1 team. You know, they go win it. And listen, and we're talking track times in Florida, right? Like, I mean, the best 100 time in Jersey might not even make the podium in Florida, you know? Right. And these guys are the 4x1 team. He's got one of the top center fielders in the country, right? I mean, but football, like these kids, football, he may be the number, like a top 10 draft pick for the MLB, but he's still going to football because football is what it is, man. The appeal for that sport itself, it's different because it's a sport where high school, after it, if you're not playing in college, if you're not one of that small percentage that goes on to play something, it's over. There's no, men's leagues or Saturday morning leagues for football. Once you take that helmet off that last time in high school, it's over.
Yeah, I agree.
Unique. Coach, it's been great having you on. I mean, I've really enjoyed the discussion and your thoughts and obviously your wisdom and knowledge. Hopefully you pass some wisdom and knowledge on to Derek. So since he's still coaching in high school, he got
open invitation if you want to come south.
I don't know how much wisdom I have. I really don't. Man.
Open invitation if you want to come coach at St. John.
Okay, my coaching, career was on a different path. When I was playing at Don Bosco, I had George Fanner, and you didn't tell George what position you wanted to play. When he came in from St. Michael's in Union City, we were juniors, and my best friend was a quarterback. And he comes in, he brings a flanker, a tailback, and a quarterback. And I looked at him and I said, "You're not playing." It's one of these deals, baby. You're not going to play. He moved positions, obviously, but the thing was he wasn't playing. So.
That's how it is.
It just, I mean, over the 50 years, I've seen so many changes. I mean, we were talking just film. 16 millimeters, Super 8, VHS.
You're not being at the diner to exchange a tape anymore.
Right. I still have a CD burner someplace in this office.
The CD burner. Oh, those are great.
Yeah.
Well, but that was something like
the multi-burner. You burn multiple.
It's funny you bring that up because I was talking to Jerry Gallagher the other day, and for some reason we talked about it. And when you exchanged film, you might have gone into the diner and had a cup of coffee and talked ball a little bit. And you know what I mean? The network of coaches was just so
it was
tight, right? And now it's, hey man, send, thanks, see you later. Like, and these guys don't go to clinics like they used to. And
No.
they think that, hey, I watched YouTube, I played Madden, I'm good. Like
sports films in Patterson. When you were a young coach, now John Sineski and I were very good friends when he was at Belleville and stuff.
He was the guy.
And we would meet at sports films. John Bauer Sr., Bill Regan Sr. You know, anybody.
Great career, another great career, another guy going in a great career.
They were waiting for their scrimmage films, and you had a wealth of information, you know, at your fingertips. You know, all you had to do was go to an establishment, buy them a beer. You know, and I'll never forget when I was at Bailey, I went to my first AFCA convention. The principal allowed me to go and got me a car. So I'm on a plane with Bill Regan Sr. and John Bauer Jr. Okay, and they called me before we took off, and they said, "Listen, make sure you have a jacket and tie." I'm saying, I'm going to a clinic. What do I need a jacket and tie? I was there, Miss Daisy. I drove them around because I had a car. Okay. And any establishment they went to, whether it was eating or liquid and body, I had to have a jacket and tie on, you know. But you know what? I sacrificed, you know, I did it because I was getting stuff from these guys that people weren't going to hear.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it was great, you know, and the old Glazier clinics, they used to bring the Florida State staff. They used to bring the Michigan staff.
You can just look at the look, I mean, they asked me to speak a couple of years ago. You know what I'm saying? And look, I'm not. What are we doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, here I am going, really? Like, to me, that is was such an honor, right? But you look at some of the names that are up on their Glazier, or hey, I can't fill this spot, or I can't.
Hold on a second.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, look at that office. Coach, you might have the best office.
That is the best office of all the guests we've had.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
50 shows,
50
30
years in the
guests.
making. All right. Damn. Here's a glass from the Ray Crowther Football Clinic in Tarrytown, New York.
Crowther.
Okay, this is like in the 70s. Okay. Tubby Raymond spoke. Grant Taft spoke. Mike White from California. Steve Sloan. Sam Ritigliano. Joe Yukika, Jerry Claiborne. These are the names. These were the names that were there. 1976. You know, I mean, that you never got. You know, Ara Parseghian. I have his book. It's autographed when he ran the WingT at Notre Dame. You know, there's some Bibles from the WingT, and that, you know, like Evashevsky and Nelson and things like that. I have those books.
It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, look, that's stuff that, you know, here it is. This is gold. And it's just not like that anymore. It's really not, you know, even from my time and in my 14 seasons of coaching, like, you know, the first thing where's the clinic? Well, who's running a clinic, right? And Jerry Gallagher he still does a great job within Morris County in terms of Morris County coaches clinics and stuff like that. He does so much, right? Yep. And I'm so glad that he was just honored, you know, by the AFCA because it's so well deserving. And you know, like I said, he's been a mentor through all these years. You know, you're talking Bill Regan Sr., Bill Regan Jr., right? Jed Morris Knowles, who's finally stepping one. I was fortunate enough to be a paraprofessional there for a year. I used to just go into his office, sit down, and be a sponge. And he would just, hey, you know, and this was like, we're talking my second year of coaching. I know nothing. And I'm going into this guy's office, and he's got playbooks and stuff from I'm like, oh my God, he's breaking out the overhead and drawing on it, you know? It's I've been fortunate enough personally to coach with guys of your caliber, high level guys, whether it be Billy Johnson, you know, or Coach Regan. I've been around Bob Jones, right? Like I was fortunate enough, Mark Mickens. I was fortunate enough to play for these guys and in an established program, very much like a Cedar Grove. I mean, Coach, you're responsible for ending the 4-peat, right? Like we were 4 in a row and then lost to you in the semis in 99, which, you know, stopped the whole process. But like I said, it's just, you know, it's a pleasure to have a conversation with you and be able to talk to you so that, you know, other guys can get the knowledge that you have and, you know, kind of hopefully soak that in and take it into limelight. So I really appreciate you taking the
time. I appreciate the kind words. And Derek, you know, the reason we beat you is because it took us 4 years to figure you out.
Hey, it's not hard, man. It was a great offense for me. 4 wide, we're either going 2x2 or 3x1 and find open space, and the ball's coming. So it wasn't hard to figure out. It was hard for other guys to figure out because we were the only ones doing it for so long, and we had a little tempo and stuff like that. But
and that's why the WingT's coming back, because nobody does it.
Correct.
And same with the option, same stuff.
It all comes.
That's the beauty of football. That's the beauty of it.
I mean, you look at the Miami Dolphins, right, and the stuff that they're doing. It's all WingT concepts. Just now, you're throwing it, right? Now it's all timing and this and that, and it just, if you're a knowledgeable football coach and you continue to learn, which is what I feel, in order to be great, you have to adapt with times and work with your personnel and get better every single year. And you just have to take that knowledge and then you just kind of move forward with it, and then you do what you want with it, So, Coach, I really appreciate the time.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you taking time listening to the old man. I appreciate
it. Was great having you on. Thanks so much, Coach. Have a great day.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good stuff, man.
Oh, it was great stuff. That was fantastic. That really was. And he moves into number 2 on the Times fan.
Well, it's like this too. Like these guys, you know what I mean? Like there's just the wealth of knowledge when it comes to just not only scheme and this and that. It's just they've dealt with and seen so much within the programs themselves, the changes of everything. And then you're talking to a guy like that who, from a small group 1 with, hey, we just got to do this with the guys that we have and adapt and do. I always say group 1, group 2 coaches, those guys really coach, dude, because you don't have the
resources.
You just don't have the dudes. You don't have the guys. Like maybe, look, we're both group 1 guys, small school guys. Every other year, it's like, all right, this is a good group and this is not so good group. This is a good group and this is not so good. To consistently win at a group 1, it's all culture, And then to see him, go to St. Peter. I still don't know what they're doing on offense, right? That's funny. But my man can coach, right? Look at the guys that he coached and then kind of go from there. Damn.
It's when I got up before, I have he said sports films in Patterson. So I have one of my films. I couldn't find it. Trying to go through it quickly. I have I think it was our game against Patterson Catholic when I was a senior. I have our sports films from Patterson film. The cover of it says sports films on the top, and that's
right. And that was like the one place that did everybody's video.
16 millimeter. They did 16 millimeter. Everybody's 16 millimeters.
And that was like the reel or something.
Yes, I don't know if I ever told you this, but when I was a senior, the whole goal was to get to be a senior, because when you got to be a senior with the 16 mil during film day, you could go sit in any priority spot. So when I was an underclassman, I'd be, coach could see me. I could never close my eyes. When I was a senior,
Come on, man, you ain't supposed to be closing your eyes, bro.
Hey, listen, I need I don't know if they did this in your area with the video, but in high school with the when they rewind it 20 times,
can't do it.
Listen, film sessions were 2 hours. Okay,
easily. Every play 5 times.
5 times. 5. I would lay underneath. I would sit underneath. I had this nice spot. I made myself like a couch pillow, and I would sit underneath the film. Coach would be above me. I'd be below, and I would just be watching it. And then if it was something real boring, I just don't wait for him. Just wait for the yell of "Showman!" And as soon as I heard start to yell at me, I'd be like, "Yeah." I've been watching that clip. I'm like, "Oh, sorry, coach, I did this wrong." Yeah, but the 16 millimeter film was unbelievable. And the funniest thing about it, I think I told you that they put some Sadloch films from the old days, like I'm talking like 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all 16 millimeter online on YouTube. And I tried to show Troy the film, and he goes, "Wow, you're so slow." I'm like, well, 16 millimeter,
It's
you
not
may
like
not
other films. It's not like now where I can do a huddle film and I can speed it up a little bit, right? Or I could do like
It's not at it's it for some. I don't know how they
It's
judge.
slow. It doesn't translate. It's like watching a 1920s movie.
Yes,
Oh,
it's like
freaking what's his name coming out?
That's
And
what
they're
it.
all.
That's exactly what it's like. It's like so it looks like you're like
It's
really.
just the way the film. It's just the technology that it was. But look, you watch my highlight film on. I got one on my junior year's on a VHS. My senior year's on a DVD. There's no spot shadow or it's this guy. You had to say, hey, when he's in a blue, when you see these guys in blue, he's number 2 and he's playing this position for every play because there was no highlight like circle, arrow. It's just not how it worked. You know what I'm saying? It was, I mean, hey, this is what I'm looking at. And not, it's just, you couldn't play any games with it, right? Like it was just kind of, you could barely even tell. You're like, oh, that's a giant blur. I guess that was a nice catch, right? Because it's just, the film quality was such shit.
So by the time I was a junior, most teams had moved to VHS. Okay.
Right.
My coaches still use 16 millimeter.
See, that was terrible. That's horrible.
So in recruiting, so here's what was crazy. My senior year, okay, and I don't know if this had effect on it or not, but the younger coaches couldn't understand the 16 millimeter how to translate. So the coaches were coming and be like, "Hey, can you give us a VHS?" Well, nobody did. I had a friend, one of my fullback, his father filmed the games for his.
Thank God,
dude. You would have. That's the film that we had to start sending out to coaches. We said, "Hey, Mr. Flores, can we borrow?"
Would you mind if I used your film?
No, we would make a copy of it, and so we would have to do that for each game, and we had to send it out.
Yeah, you had to do it on your own
because the 60 millimeter was what they had, and the coaches would come in, and it was just shifting. It's just like now, if you send the DVD to a college coach.
They don't even know what it is.
He'd be like, "What is this?"
They're like, "Wait, even if your film like isn't like, oh, send me your huddle link." One company has literally mastered and encompassed
monopoly
the entire. Like, whoa,
yeah.
Like there was no huddle when I was in high school.
Huddle is. I remember when huddle became the thing. Like at first, our coach, I think it was at Sadloch. No,
I think you were at probably Leonia.
Maybe it was when I was at Leonia. Yeah. So whenever it became a thing, it took a couple of years. Like we were using it, but I paid for it.
I paid for it. Like, hey,
I
paid
paid
for huddle. You don't? Oh well, you should get huddle.
I paid for it. My AD wouldn't pay for it. I paid for it because they said, "Hey, everybody's using this."
Right, like you're going to get lost. It was same thing with you guys still using 16 millimeter, not going to VHS. Same thing.
Exactly. And then eventually my AD said, like after a few years. Was like,
after he went to a meeting. And
but I had
the
a
athletic director was like, hey, I'm using huddle. And he's like, oh, shit, I guess I should use huddle.
No, it became mandatory at the time, what league were we? BCSL?
Probably.
Yeah, but I think it was BCSL. It became mandatory. And then you couldn't, then they're like, then obviously they had to do it. And, because
you want to talk about a company just dominating like that.
You know what this was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you know what they were charging colleges for access to all the film that's online? You know what they were charging D1 schools? Take a guess. This is 10 years ago. I found a guy.
I don't know, a couple hundred.
Couple hundred what?
What do you mean? Like a couple hundred, like $500.
They charge Division I schools $50,000 for a license. Access to everything, $50K.
How many college players?
That was 10 years ago. I heard that.
So, like, in how many football playing schools? Like,
how much is that place making? So, let's say they maybe now it's 75.
I don't even know where is their. I think they're. And then remember,
Nebraska.
And then every year it evolves, right? They add something else. They do this. Now they literally do the breakdowns for you.
You have AI. Oh yeah. Listen, those were the key things that helped me as a head coach in the late years at Powell Park was they did the breakdowns.
Yeah.
I paid for it myself.
Yeah, well, I mean, because it's worth it. It saves you how many hours once they get your terminology, their verbiage. And listen, we're not talking football guys on the other end breaking it down. We're talking like tech students going through, going, "Oh, that looks like this. That looks like that."
Originally, they did. Now they do. I think maybe the whole thing. But originally, it was like first down.
Dave, I'm talking. I give them my tape. It comes back with my formation, my direction, the result of the play, first down, second down, yard marker, time on the clock, how many timeouts I have. I mean, we're talking.
Now they have AI. Now they have AI too. I'm in there because of Old Japan. They have AI where you could use AI to break down certain things like tendencies and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it saves you so much time. And like, honestly, as a coach, what are you looking for? You're looking for any way to save time. How can I get more time with my players? How can we break this down? How can we play this game? How can we do this? So, listen, that was good. Coaches, I mean, listen, we could talk to like either of those guys that we had on this week. We could talk to for hours. You know what I mean? You're talking guys that like you say the name and it's like people are like, oh, okay. You know?
No doubt. All right, till next time, next week.